did this there in my transition is my hand was in the center of my box. I was having a nice pace in my trot. When I was ready to do my walk transition, I relaxed my seat, I took my legs off, and I also did the verbal cue walk. Okay, and it's really important for you to visualize this way, is that you just want to do, you want your horse to mimic your body language, okay? So if you trot and you say walk and you say stiffen your body, your horse will stay stiff in his body as well. So if you're trotting along and you want him to break to a slow walk, I want you to relax your seat, say walk with a relaxed, calm voice, and your hand can come down just a little bit closer to the horn to really control that forward motion. Again, your hand is in control of his shoulder. So when you're jogging, your hand can be a little bit higher up, and when you're walking, your hand can come back just a few inches closer to the horn, just to help that movement and for him to relax and slow down his shoulder. So now I'm going to do the transition from an extended trot to a slow trot. It's very similar to the walk. I'm going to also use my voice command, and I'm going to also relax in my seat and bring my hand closer to the horn. So in my extended trot, my hand is forward to free those shoulders and get them to gain some ground. When I do my transition, I want my hand to come back to my original spot in the center of my box. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to put a little bit weight in the back of my saddle, and I'm going to take my legs a little bit off of my horse. I don't want to take my legs all the way off, because if something happened that he slows down too much, I want to be there to make sure I can help him stay in the gait that I need. So this transition was nice. He pushed a little bit in my hand when he did the transition from the fast trot to the slow. So this is why I stopped. I kept a firm contact and I bumped my calf right behind the cinch, just for him to lift his back and move his feet backward a little bit. And that's just going to help reinforce that hand cue. So when I go to my fast trot to a slow trot, when this hand movement happens, I want him to do exactly what he just did right here. I want him to collect down a little bit, stay soft in my hand, and slow down with my body. Okay, he did it okay, but when I slow down, he just went to push on my hand just a little bit, and this is why I stopped. I didn't pull hard because I don't want to create more stiffness. I just want to take a contact where he's getting a little heavy, and then I want to tell him to get off my hand at this place. So you never want to pull more. If you feel some resistance, don't pull more. Stay where the resistance is, and then just put a little bit more pressure somewhere else, which I use my leg and my voice to tell him to get off of my hand. So I'm going to try this again. So this transition was a little softer. He didn't push in my hand when I asked him to go from his fast to his slow. I let him trot slow a few strides, and I still stop and back up. Just again for reinforcement for what we just had worked on a few minutes prior. You know, horses really learn by repetition. So I really want him to learn that when my hand comes down and I take a little contact in his mouth, I want to make sure he stays soft. I don't want any resistance in my hand, and I want him to think to use his back end and you know, really stay off his shoulder. And the more he uses his body and stay off my hand, the lighter he will be and the better it will look. So the next transition we're going to talk about is the slow lope to the fast trot. This is happen often in the ranch riding in the patterns, and you want to make sure that your horse, when you ask him from a slow lope to a fast trot, we don't want him to slow down too much so he goes to a slow lope, but we want to make sure that he responds as quickly as possible to your cue. So that's something that you really need to reinforce over and over with your horse, that when you do your cue from your slow lope to your fast trot, that he sit back 1 stride and then he go back to his extended trot. So I will show you how I teach this horse to do that. And again, he's still in the learning transition with me. You know, I think he's pretty good at those. Sometimes he wants to slow down a little bit too much before getting extended. So you can see what I'm going to be doing with him to help him achieve that transition. So I'm going to lope him off, and I'm going to do a transition from your slow lope to the extended trot. Trot. So this one, he did respond to my cue, but he just, again, like I said, sometimes he just wants to give me too much. He wants to slow down a little too hard and not really go into that extended trot right away. So it's really important when you slow down that you're right there with your leg and your voice cue to make sure that you teach him to push from behind and not slow down. Okay, so we're gonna do one more transition from the slow lope to the extended trot. Trot. So this one was much better, much more free. He didn't slow down too much. He could have been a little quicker to pick up that pace, and that's what we're going to be working on next. But, you know, I was very pleased with that. The next transition is going to be from the slow lope to the slow trot. Again, you got to make sure the more in tune your horse is with your body, the better your transition is going to be. My cue for the slow lope to the slow trot is I'm loping around, my hand is in the center of my box, and I'm clucking away if I need a little bit more momentum. When I'm ready to do the slow trot, I sit, I say trot, and I bring my hand a little closer to the horn to slow down the forward motion of his shoulder. I'm not going to take my legs way off his body because, again, I want to make sure that I'm there close to him if something happened that he slows down too much. And I want to make sure that I'm there to give him momentum for that slow trot to get a little bit more rhythm so he's not too slow and too relaxed in that slow trot. Trot. Cool. So this transition was good. He listened to my hand. He's getting a little bit tired here, so he's just maybe a little bit slower than I would like him to be in that transition, but it was very smooth. So I can really fault him on that. I think he really listened to my body. So again, something to remember, you know, your hand is a little bit higher up for the lope. You want to do a transition, you bring your hand a little closer to the horn, you sit back, you slow down your body, and you say trot with a nice neutral voice. If something happened that your horse would not respond to that cue, so for example, I'm going to go ahead and ask him again, and I'll pretend he's not responding to my cue. Trot. I would stop him and back him up. And right away, I would lope him back up and ask him right away. Trot. So see, this time I barely had to even move my hand. I said trot, he was ready to listen to my voice command and relax and slow down. So that's something you can do over and over by repetition. When you go lope, you let him lope around, you say your word, and you put your body in the position you want to do for your slow down. So for me, my hand is a little higher up. It comes closer to the horn, and I put weight in the back of my saddle, and I say trot. If you don't have no reaction, you stop your horse, very calm. You keep that contact in his face. You can bump your leg a little bit just for him to move his feet off the ground a little quicker. You stop for a second, regroup, and ask him again right away. Don't go do 5 or 6 other circle. Ask him pretty quickly. You know, they learn by repetition, and their memory is not that long. So the more you can put that in his brain and redo it quickly, the better he's going to learn. This last transition here is probably one of the hardest one. It's where your horse goes into extended lope into an extended trot. You know, this guy here has been only with me for a month and a half, and that's probably one of the hardest things to teach, especially where his background is reining. In reining, there's never any moment where you can have a trot from a lope. You know, that's actually something we really train into their brain, where we don't want them to trot from the lope because it's a lot of penalties. So I really had to train him and really teach my cue to when I go fast into my lope, when I say trot and I lift my hand, this is my cue for my extended trot, is I'll take my leg off and put pressure in my stirrup, and I'll lift my hand to kind of break the forward motion of his front feet from loping to trotting. So I'm just going to lift them, and I'm going to take my legs off his body and put pressure in my stirrup. I'll say also trot. So I'm going to show you where he's at right now, and if I stop him and back him up, that's because he didn't respond to my cue enough. So you can see a little bit what I do to tune them up as well into this transition. Trot, trot, trot. Trot, trot. Trot, trot. So now that we see all the transition that you will need to work on for the ranch riding, I hope it gave you a little bit more tools to teach your horse to respect your body a little bit more, you know, to sit back. And the most important thing is really teach your horse to listen to your body language. If you're leaning forward, that means go faster. You're sitting back, that means go slower. You're turning your body to the right, that means turn this way. Let's try to keep it as simple as possible, and all you need to do is reinforce that. You make your cue. If he doesn't respond as quickly as you would like, stop him, back him up softly, and start over. And by reinforcing that over and over, your horse will become sharper and have better transition. So I'm going to talk about logs. In your ranch riding class, you'll see different situations. Sometimes you'll have to walk over them, jog over them, or even lope over. It is important that your horse is as comfortable as possible with different scenarios. And therefore, I have set up here a little pattern with different size and different width that I'm going to pass Looney through, and that's something that you can definitely practice at home to make sure your horse is as comfortable as possible with different scenario in front of him. So first here I have my horse, and I'm going to walk him through that first log here just to make sure that he knows that we're going to be paying attention to something on the ground. Here's another log that I like to use. Sometimes I'll use 2, 3, or 4, just a little bit bigger. I'm going to stop him here and back him up just to make sure that he's paying attention to this log. I like to use a bigger one like this to just really teach him to lift his feet. So he really had to lift his knee there and lift his hock. And that's going to really help us when it comes to having 4 log in a row. Okay, next I do this at the trot. So I'm going to jog my horse around. And when he's nicely in control and prepared, I'm going to go ahead and pass him through that single log. That's good. He lifted his feet nice. His timing wasn't quite perfect when we approached the log, and that's why he had to be do a little bit more of an effort to make sure he wasn't going to touch it. So I actually really appreciate that from him. So this one was much more smooth. We came to the log nice and straight, so he didn't feel like he had to jump as high to not touch it. So now I'm going to pass him through the 4 logs. That was really nice. Always make sure you keep your horse straight before going into the log and after. You don't want him to be leaning on your reins because that will affect how he's going onto your pole, and it's really important that he's nice and balanced going into it. Nice and straight. So this horse obviously has worked on logs before. He knew he had to step up his footstep to make sure that he wasn't going to get behind and hit his knee, or hit his feet, I'm sorry. And therefore he went ahead and speed up his footstep to make sure he was going to clear that. And that's something that this will really develop that into your horse, because I've been putting different scenario here on this arena, and sometime I'll put 4 logs, sometime I'll put 6, sometime they'll be closer to each other, sometime they'll be wider. I'll put different sizes of log to really teach him to be aware of what's in front of him and let him calculate how much he need height and how much he need distance so he doesn't nick any of the log. I'm going to show you here another situation. If Looney here would be kind of a new horse, and I would like to teach him to think about the log. For sure this horse has been through them, but I'll pretend that he's new at this, and I'll show you what you need to do to teach your horse to maybe wait for you and teach him, where to put that foot in each of the log. So first here, if Looney was a horse that I would like to teach him to be aware that there will be something underneath his feet, and his job is to go over it, first I would start with a single log. So I would bring him to a single log and I would stop him. I'd back him up a few steps and let him see that there's something in front of him. And I will repeat that a few times. Again, I'll put my hand down and I'll tell him that there's something on the ground that he'll need to make sure that he steps over. I'll stop him again. And now this time I'll let him walk on it, but I'll lean forward a little bit, kind of tell him to look at it. Good. So the fact that you lean forward a little bit and put pressure in your stirrups is really just telling your horse to lean forward and, hey, look on the ground, there's something that you're about to step on, and pay attention to it. So I'm going to do the same thing here with the big one, but I'm going to stop him, back him up. I'm going to walk forward one more time and stop him, because I really want him to pay attention to it, and I don't want him to rush to the log. And then I'm going to let him walk to it. Okay, I went ahead and clucked once, and I probably should have clucked twice. You know, the first step just needed a little bit momentum to get over. And, you know, he needed to lift his feet and lift his hock so he wouldn't touch it. And when I cluck, it made him lift his knees higher so he didn't touch it with his front feet. And I didn't cluck for his back feet, and he did touch it with one of his ankle. So I'm going to go ahead and send him through again and try to clean this up. Okay, so there was just he didn't do nothing wrong. He knew there was a log coming. He actually stopped and then took a step because he knew that if he would have just kept going, his step weren't going to be big enough to clear it. So again, I'm not going to punish that. I'm just going to reward that. I'm going to pass him through this until he's so comfortable and confident to pass this log. Much better. So now I just cluck once before just to make sure I had the momentum to go up there. But then I just lean forward and I put a little bit pressure in my stirrup and let him pass on that log. I'm going to do it again here at the walk. I'm going to set him up. Very good. He really lifted his knees really high there, and he really careful for it. So now I'm going to do the same thing at the trot. I pass that single log, stop, back him up, say, hey, there's a log coming. Now go ahead and walk him through this one, and go ahead and jog him again. This one, I'm going to pass through this one again. Back him up, tell him to wait for me, then I'll pass it through at the walk. Now this time around, I'm going to try to pass him through at the trot. Very good. So it's really had to do a lot of, you know, he had to really lift his front end to pass that log, because that's really what I want him to practice. That when there's something in front of him, he's got to lift his feet to make sure he doesn't hit it. Very good. So again, that just gives you a little bit of some ideas that you can do with your horse at home. Put different kind of logs, different sizes, and pass through your horses through different scenarios until he's really confident and comfortable, and give you a better chance to passing through those logs without any penalties. So we're going to talk about side pass. You'll see some of those in your patterns. They'll ask you sometime to side pass over a log. Sometime it'll be just in the middle of your pattern with nothing under your horse. To execute a proper side pass, your horse has to have free shoulder movement, free hip movement, and he has to get off your outside leg and move off your outside legs in a calm, timely manner. I will give you a few techniques that I do with my horses to teach them to move their body straight and synchronize to the right or to the left to execute a perfect side pass. I'll demonstrate here with Looney what I do two-handed at the beginning to prepare for a side pass for in my class. So at the beginning, I'll take two-hand to control both shoulders. And I'll pick up to do a collection, and I'll squeeze both leg. And when I'm ready to execute my side pass, I will release. Example, if I want to side pass to the right, I will release my right leg and put a little bit more pressure with my outside leg and do a control side pass to the direction that I'm asking. But I'm going to collect them first. So I pick up, squeeze both legs, and I'm going to release the right. And make him go to the right. And I'm going to do the same thing going to the left. I'm going to pick up, Very nice. This one was much more calm. He was a little surprised on my first side pass. Go ahead and pick him up again, squeeze my leg, release my right one. Do the same thing to the left. Pick up, squeeze, release my left leg. So he wants to go a little forward, so I'm going to back him up just a few steps to make sure that he doesn't push on my hand. You know, a nice side pass, he cannot go forward, he cannot go backward, because if I had a log underneath, you know, it's very calculated. He had to really follow that log so we wouldn't step on it. So I'm going to go ahead and ask him again to go to the right. I'm going to pick up, squeeze my leg, wait for me, release it. Cool. So there he wants to take one step forward again. I'm going to back him up. And I'm going to pick him up, go to the left. Good, now back him up one more step. Just to reinforce that, to make sure that he doesn't think of pushing on my hand. He's got to stay right here with me, and then we do a nice side pass without any forward motion. So now that you have practiced two-handed to move your horse in both directions, and hopefully your horse is staying as straight as possible in your hand and in between your leg, and he moves nicely off your leg, it's time to practice one-handed. So I'm going to put Looney here through a side pass both ways, and I'm also going to go over what I do with my body position, what I do with my leg, and where do I look in my side pass, because it's important. If I'm crooked on my saddle, my horse was also going to be bent in my side pass, and also it's going to be a little harder to execute it properly. When I do the side pass, I lift my hand, I squeeze my leg, and I'm also going to look to the inside, you know, where I would want him to step that front foot. So if he's going to the right, I'm going to look right here, right beside his front foot, where he would put that next step for that side pass. So I'm going to go ahead and pick him up and ask him for a side pass to the right. So I pick up, squeeze, release. So that was nice. He got a little bent to the outside. Sometimes I like to keep my horse's nose just a little bit to the inside to help control that in this case, the right shoulder. But he was really fluid off my leg, so that's definitely a plus. So I'm going to go ahead and ask him to the left. I'm going to pick up, squeeze, release. So that side pass was had a nice rhythm. It wasn't super fast, super slow. I felt like he was calm into it and did execute it in a relaxed manner. I guess something to really remember out of this is to take your time when you start the execution of your side pass. If you rush to it, the horse's shoulder might go a little too quickly, or his hips might go too quickly, and it's just going to set you up to have a bad side pass. So take your time, pick up, squeeze your leg, release that inside leg when you are ready, and look to the inside where you would want him to put that next front foot, and you know, and control that side pass throughout. When I'm actually in the side pass, I don't just relax. I stay nice and straight. My body's turned a little bit to the side that I'm executing my side pass, and I control his body with my leg. So if you have a horse that want to rush through it, you know, bring that inside leg a little closer to his body and control his speed. If you have a horse that's a little slow on your outside leg, then maybe, you know, move him off that outside leg and maybe do some exercise that's going to help you accelerate him off that leg. and hopefully clean up that side pass a little bit and execute it a little quicker. So we're going to talk about the spin or the turnaround. What I'm looking for a horse to have for the wrench riding, I want a horse that can cross over nice and easy, that sits in his backhand and have a pivot foot, and have a nice rhythm for his turnaround. If you have a horse that